In 2012, Academy Award-winning director Sam Mendes joined forces with Daniel Craig for one of the most daring and impressive Bond movies in the franchise's 50-year history. When 007 seemingly returns from the dead only to come face-to-face with Javier Bardem's enigmatic Silva in SkyFall.
Good evening, 003. The following is for your ears only and is classified above top secret by Her Majesty's Secret Service. Our contact with the We Can Make This Work, probably podcast network, intercepted an encrypted audio message regarding Podcasters Assemble. For this season, the podcast network is looking to recruit field operatives from around the world to reminisce about the Bond movies in a countdown to the latest film in the franchise, No Time to Die. Your primary objective is to infiltrate Podcasters Assemble by recording and uploading your submissions at probablywork.com, utilizing a two-way communications device with a built-in microphone, the latest from Q-Branch. For a full mission report, go to probablywork.com. We're all counting on you, 003.
Assemble. Podcasters assemble.
Yo, this is Corey from The World Is My Burrito.
This is Chris from the Comic Zombie Podcast.
Eric Slater here from Epic Fails of History and Too Young for This Trek.
This is Troidal Power from the Power Playthroughs Podcast.
My name is Ben Thompson. I'm from badassoftheweek.com.
This is Justin Aki, graphic designer and one half of Significant Honor Co.
This is Megan Aki, the other half of Significant Honor Co.
And this is Skyfall.
Skyfall.
2012's Skyfall.
Skyfall, and then Bond falls, and then M falls, after MI6 falls.
Spoiler alert.
Stay tuned at the end of this episode for a special project by myself and local producer Deftstroke.
Directed by Sam Mendes, Skyfall is the 23rd Bond film and the third part of the modern 007 series starring Daniel Craig.
It is the 23rd James Bond movie, the third Daniel Craig movie, and at the time it came out, it was the highest grossing film in British history.
It premiered in 2012 on the 50th anniversary of the franchise that started with 1962's Dr. No.
Alright, so 007 Skyfall.
For Craig, Skyfall and Casino Royale keep waning between my favorite.
What to say about Skyfall? It's excellent. It's maybe my favorite Bond movie. If it's not Skyfall, it's Casino Royale, with Skyfall and maybe GoldenEye like right behind it.
If Casino Royale was the Batman Begins of Bond, this is definitely Bond's Dark Knight.
I do think this movie is the second best of the Craig series, only being bested by Casino Royale. As I noted last movie, you can't really judge Quantum without thinking of it as a continuation of Casino Royale, but I do think this movie is better than Spectre.
So today, I'm gonna say Skyfall is my favorite Craig film.
So I have a very distinct memory of seeing each of the Craig Bond movies in theaters, and this one might be the most fun. Just like with Casino Royale, it's a nearly perfect movie, and absolutely one of the best Bond movies.
I remember really liking Skyfall when it first came out. This was one of the ones that, has high marks for me in my memory. Watching it again, it's still pretty good.
I also never realized how goofy this movie was. If the lighting weren't as dramatic, the music is intense, and the writing so damn emotional, this could very well be a Connery film or even a Bond spoof.
One of the most outstanding aspects of this entry is the brilliant direction by Sam Mendes. The cinematography, music, editing, it all works perfectly. The use of color, dialogue, and symbolism it's mind-blowing.
It's definitely got things about it that I think are a little wishy-washy, but for the most part, I like it quite a bit.
This movie's great.
Top 3, hands down.
There are, some logic fails at times, but it's a Bond movie, so it's expected. But it's the sense of realism and the real feel of mortality for Bond. He's kind of getting a bit older. Some of his injuries are hampering him a little bit. I dig that a bit, but it's really gorgeous film too.
I think the difference is that with Casino Royale, you love it because of how bold and seriously they took the material. It had emotional weight to it. Skyfall, on the other hand, is just a damn good movie. It's got everything you want in a Bond movie. It still retains the personal stakes, but doesn't skimp on the exotic locales, explosions, and martinis. It's a modern take on a classic Bond adventure.
I do think that the arc with Craig retiring, then coming back as a broken agent, but pushing through, and going up against a different version of himself in both a game of wits and a whole lot of firepower is kind of fun.
Daniel Craig absolutely embodies the character.
This movie is the, spoiler alert, last outing of Dame Judi Dench's M, and damn, what a way to go.
Dame Judi Dench gives her best performance yet, and Javier Bardem threatens to steal the show as one of the best villains in the entire series.
So imagine sitting in a quiet theater, and then all of a sudden you hear "Ba-dun," just waking you up to what I assumed was going to be the last film in the Craig Bond franchise.
The opening sting hits in this one, with a very stylized opening, of Bond walking through a smoky hallway, slightly out of focus.
We open with a cool old-school cinema shot where the light's perfectly on Bond's eyes, then a gun.
Interesting note, when I went to school for film production, I submitted and recreated this opening scene. Wore a three-piece suit and everything. It wasn't about the acting though, don't worry, I'm still terrible. It was more about the lighting.
Once again, we've got no gun barrel. The movie just starts and it never stops.
Then we're in a hotel room. There's a dead body. 2 bodies. Another casualty. And this one's an agent.
Bond comes into a scene of past chaos, with dead agents and the remains of a firefight.
The agent's dying.
One agent is slowly bleeding to death, and hard drives with important information were stolen.
Bond administers first aid, but M orders him to leave the guy. He doesn't like it, but he does it.
Bond stops to help out the agent, but M, via earpiece, tells Bond to keep moving. Cold bitch, but wants the mission done.
Chases the guy down the hall into a busy Middle Eastern street, hops into a waiting Range Rover because it's England, and it's being driven by Selena from 28 Days Later.
The cold open is really well done. They did a nice job.
The opening sequence is just absolutely amazing and gives you a solid example of what the rest of the movie is going to be like as far as lighting and cinematography go.
At the start of the movie, Bond and another agent, we'll call her Eve. I don't remember if she gets named here or later, but I believe her name's Eve. Anyway, Bond and another agent are in a chase scene, just big old chase scene, and you don't really know what's going on.
Bond leaves, getting into a Land Rover driven by who we eventually learn, spoiler alert, is Moneypenny. In this iteration, a field agent, not a secretary. Moneypenny is a pretty decent driver, except for a few jokes with her tearing off the mirrors. But honestly, driving through Istanbul, not Constantinople, no, Istanbul.
There's a car chase, they flip the Audi, and the guy comes up shooting with a 100-round drum magazine jammed into a Glock. He kills a bunch of cops, he steals a bike, and then Bond's after him in another much crappier bike.
We get this intense chase through Istanbul.
Okay, there's the Hagia Sophia, so we're in Istanbul.
Driving through Istanbul, not Constantinople. No, Istanbul.
It's a rooftop motorcycle chase. We're 10 seconds into this movie, and it's already amazing. We're driving through a bazaar. They're flying through plate glass windows.
Bond's after a stolen hard drive with the identities of all of the MI6 agents in the field.
Which ends with the bad guy being chased crashing, and then getting out of the car with the biggest magazine I've ever seen on a handgun.
Oh, hey, the guy they're chasing has a compensation gun.
They usually use those things on rifles, not tiny full-auto pistols. And it holds like 400,000 rounds. He just keeps firing, killing cops, killing everybody, until he steals a motorcycle. And then Bond takes one too. And then we have a crazy bike chase, with Bond in a suit, going upstairs, riding across the top of the Grand Bazaar, ending on a train with Moneypenny in tow.
And this is awesome. This is a practical chase. Those things on the rooftops there are barely a meter wide, like 3 feet wide, and they need to land jumps on there. They had stunt drivers doing this with tight lines, no helmets, 40-foot drops on either side. This is all practical stunt work, and it's amazing.
But it's pretty good. Bond rides a motorcycle across some rooftops.
Okay, so this is probably like the funnest little motorcycle race. You don't have to be too insanely extreme. The light drifting is fine. The rooftop thing looks very exciting as someone who rides. The green screen isn't the best, but it ain't the worst.
The other British agent that's with Bond is trying to drive the Range Rover to assist, but she's British, so she's not used to driving on the wrong side of the road here, so she's crashing into a bunch of shit.
I love that Eve is just thrown in, and you kind of already love her. You just have to accept that she's there, and she's amazing.
And this might be spoilers, but I love Naomi Harris as Moneypenny. She's a total badass during the scene.
My favorite car is going to have to be the Land Rover.
Favorite car or vehicle? The Aston Martin is very easy on the eyes, but that Land Rover Defender that Moneypenny drives at the very beginning is the most badass.
The DB5 we've already mentioned before, so it doesn't get another, but man, that Land Rover is just such a badass looking car.
The guy jumps onto a train, so Bond, He ramps his bike into a brick wall and uses the momentum of the crash to catapult him over the railing and onto the train.
They see Craig knows the old 1-2 yeet as he rams his bike into the wall and flings himself onto the train, which is such a badass start.
That's this Bond in a chase, just a complete wrecking ball who is barely in control of his own body most of the time.
Him saying, "Get them for God's sake," is such a managerial moment. She has no idea what's happening. Things look dire, but Eve immediately responds nonetheless.
Bond runs out of ammo, so he gets into a caterpillar, like land-moving vehicle. He gets shot, but it just makes him mad.
Bond gets shot and keeps getting shot at by the knockoff chef Michael Solomonov, and uses a digger on the train itself to move forward and attack, leading to one of the best shots of the movie, where Bond jumps from the digger into a passenger rail car and adjusts his cufflink before moving forward.
If you need to know how important this MacGuffin is, Bond willingly gets shot in order to capture this guy.
And then he just smashes through some VWs. The guy in front of him uncouples the cars, so Bond has to rip the back half of the train off with the cat, climb up the arm, and jump for it.
He uses not a crane, a piece of heavy machinery, an earth mover with a big claw on it to hold two pieces of train together and then runs across from one to the other.
So we are early on, and the first zany moment is everything involving Bond with the excavator. The fact that he uses it, even Eve mentioning, beetles falling in her way, and just everything about this to me is so zany. And when I saw it this time, it's like, holy crap, this could be like a Benny Hill moment.
And I love the shot of him fixing his cufflinks after the jump. This is the Daniel Craig version of Pierce Brosnan fixing his tie. He's so cool, and this is amazing.
Bond jumps up on the roof, leading to a fist fight with a henchman, including a roll through a tunnel.
The whole fight on the train is nuts.
There's a great fight on the train, and I like watching it from the perspective of Selena trying to keep up with them.
The train scene at the beginning is really cool.
You gotta hand it to Bond after he jumps in the train from the excavator. Just like standing up, you can clearly see that he is bleeding from inside his jacket, and he just fixes his cuff, and walks through as though nothing ever happened.
I think this is the best Bond fighting on top of train sequence we've seen yet. Easily.
It's a fun little action scene, and at the end of it, Bond and the guy are wrestling on the roof of the train.
She gets ahead, she finds a spot to snipe them, but they're fighting, and we're kind of following her for the second part of this battle, and it's really cool. She gets set up, but there's only time for one shot.
And she's got no choice but to try and take a shot and shoot the guy with a sniper rifle.
It's tough, it's a struggle, it's intense. She doesn't have a clear shot. She's radioing into M, and M orders her to take the shot.
I love how everything goes quiet with the sound of the London rain fading into the rushing waters.
And radio silence. Agent down.
Bond and the baddie end up on the last part of the train that will be available for Moneypenny to chase them, so she's forced and ordered to take a shot by M, shooting Bond by accident instead.
This is just such a great cold open, and the fake out with Bond being shot off the train into the river is one of the greatest and most shocking moments in the entire series.
And instead she shoots Bond, who falls off a train into some water and should be dead.
Bond falls off the train, off the tracks, over 100 feet into the water, leading to the opening credits in the song.
So after all the ridiculous things that we've seen in the intro, I can kind of put everything aside, except for the fact that Moneypenny never fired a second round. She hits Bond and then just kind of stands there and lets the other dude get away. That's, whatever. It's dramatic for the film, but this time watching it, it's like, man, you had like a whole minute to just shoot this guy, but you let him go.
When Moneypenny reports Agent down to M, I literally thought, did they just kill Bond? I mean, yeah, we all saw the trailers and everything, but what if it was like all an elaborate fake out?
There's no way that James Bond is still alive. I do not believe it, movie.
The way it's filmed, it's like, oh my god, he's definitely a goner, right?
We're not even through the cold open, and you've already stretched me past my ability to go with you on this. Bond just died.
I always thought that would be kind of a cool twist if they killed off Bond in the cold open and then replaced him with a new 007, like in the actual movie.
Bond's in the water, and he sinks into the intro. Adele was born to do a James Bond theme.
The opening song by Adele is fantastic.
I don't know, man.
I think I've mentioned this before, but this is the best Bond song.
So hopefully everyone's going to agree, but this is definitely one of the absolute best Bond intros.
To be honest, the Adele song's kind of forgettable. It's not the worst thing I've ever heard.
Adele knocks it out of the park.
It's the 4th Bond song to be nominated for an Oscar, the first to ever win one, and yeah.
Adele's very good. I didn't hate the song. I don't know if I'd ever hear that and think, oh, Bond. But, you know, you can say that about every single one of these stupid songs they do for these movies.
The song is fantastic enough to make it to the regular music charts. Not many Bond songs have.
The song on this one's fine. It feels more like classic Bond than the last few have, but it's not as exciting to me as the last few.
The melody is great. The singing is superb.
The lyrics are cool, at least. They are certainly referential within the context of the film.
And the lyrics really stick with you.
She's a good singer. You know, she can sing better than I can. I don't know if I can say that about Madonna, but you can say.
What, were they going to give it to that lame Hugh Jackman song that they wrote for the Les Mis movie? Like,
these intro credits are pretty awesome. Crazy effects, going deeper.
Even though it could have potentially been better, but yeah, her vocals are great.
This song crushes. It sounds like a Bond theme. It's haunting. It's dark.
In fact, when I finished watching the movie, I started humming the Quantum of Solace theme song to myself, not the Skyfall one.
The song's great on its own, but when you add that into like this whole sequence, this whole title sequence is really incredible.
I've obviously been pretty vocal about my disdain for the fact that they have like a theme song and an opening montage and all that stuff in these movies.
However, I do think that the visuals here are very cool.
The life and death imagery, the way that the song opens as it shows Bond being sucked under the water it's otherworldly.
It has a lot of death motif, and to be honest, a lot of story.
I have a theory, though, that I think these are, in the vein of Die Another Day, I think these are canonical visuals, but I don't think they happen at this point in the movie. I think what we are seeing here is Bond's PTSD nightmares that he has after the events of this movie unfold. I think that's what we're looking at.
The visuals I really enjoy because it kind of feels like you're watching a movie just in the intro.
We see Bond shooting shadows, blood in the water, knives turning into gravestones. We see Bond shooting at mirrors with a hole in his chest.
There's water images, blood in the water, death guns, bullet wounds. It's great.
The visual symbolism going on here is so clever.
This is the best intro that we have had, maybe ever.
I can't get enough of it.
I don't get why that's a thing.
I really can't praise it enough.
I don't get it.
I apologize for everything that's about to happen. This is the end. Hold your breath and count to 10. Feel the earth move and then hear my heart burst again. For this is the end. I've drowned and dreamt this moment, so overdue I owe them. Swept away, I'm stolen. Let the sky fall when it crumbles. We will stand tall. Face it all together. Let the sky fall when it crumbles. We will stand tall. Face it all together at SkyFall. At SkyFall. Skyfall is where we start. 1,000 miles and pours apart, where worlds collide and days are dark. You may have my number, you can take my name, but you'll never have my heart. Let the sky fall when it crumbles. We will stand tall, face it all together. Let the sky fall when it crumbles. We will stand tall, face it all together at SkyFall. Where you go, I go. What do you see, I see. I know you'll never be me without the security of your loving arms, keeping me from harm. Put your hand in my hand and we'll stand. Let the sky fall. When it crumbles, we will stand tall, face it all together. Let the sky fall. When it crumbles, we will stand tall, face it all together at SkyFall. At SkyFall. We will stand tall at SkyFall.
Cut to MI6, and M is typing up Bond's obituary.
You also get to see the obituary of James Bond.
So we see M writing Bond's obituary. Thinking of the last couple movies from M's perspective, I feel really bad for her. If you think about it, in Casino Royale, Bond basically up and quit, and then in the second movie he went rogue. And then right at the beginning of the third movie, he's, apparently killed in action. If I was her, I'd be so fed up with Bond for all the paperwork that she's had to file.
I like that they kind of draw this out because we know as the audience that Bond's not dead, but I like that they're kind of like really committing to it. She lists him as CMG in the obituary, companion to the Order of St. Michael and St. George, which is basically a knight. You get it for, quote, extraordinary services to the crown. He has it in from Russia with Love, the novel. He was offered the upgrade, Commander, in The Man with the Golden Gun, but he turns it down. So this is kind of, it sticks with the Bond lore from the novels. We haven't seen him get it in the movies, but it's cool. I guess he's Sir James Bond?
I do really like that Tanner has a way bigger role in this one.
So M has to go meet Ralph Fiennes, Lord Voldemort. He was also famous for being J-Lo's love interest in Maid in Manhattan. That's a fun detail.
Ralph Fiennes' introduction into it's really nicely done. He's a great actor. Whether he's in a Nazi in Schindler's List or a magic Nazi in Harry Potter, or he plays that role very well. Obviously, in this one, he's a good guy, which is a little off-putting for me, but he does it well. I kept expecting him to pull the big betrayal. Of course it was me, Bond. Pulls the mask off. I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you British clowns and your dog. Yeah, he was Voldemort the whole time.
Anyway, they're day drinking, and we learn that it's been 3 months since the prologue. The names and secret identities of a bunch of deep-covered NATO agents is what they were actually fighting for in the intro sequence in Istanbul.
And M getting investigated for incompetence for losing this movie's MacGuffin, a knock list of UN agents.
And Ralph Fiennes is mad, and he wants M to retire, but she doesn't want to hear it.
Mallory, some sort of government minister, is telling M that she might as well resign, and that he'll be investigating himself.
So essentially what we're dealing with at the start of this movie is that the guy that Bond was chasing had a hard drive that had encrypted information, including the names and locations of every embedded NATO spy that was in a terrorist organization. And so if this gets out, then all those people are going to die. And what M has to deal with is whether or not to pull those people out. And obviously she doesn't want to, because that would be, a huge blow to her infrastructure. But if not, maybe they're all going to die.
M leaves with her car pulling out a police siren. But it's the wrong siren. That was an American police siren, not one of those British or European runs, the wailing ones.
You gotta love the mysterious Nedry warning that M gets when they're trying to figure out what the heck is going on with MI6.
But someone activates the hard drive with the NATO agent's details on it, and the signal is coming from inside the room.
But the thing is that this is a personal attack. Somebody's hacking into MI6's network, and it's coming from inside the house. It's actually coming from M's personal computer in her office, because this is an attack targeted towards M, not MI6 in general.
Oh, damn, they blew up MI6.
Once again, we get an attack on MI6, this time by a mysterious cyber terrorist.
The explosion looks awesome.
It's kind of cool. They do blow up her office. That's unfortunate.
That is a great explosion. I remember having my mind blown watching this in the theaters.
M's computer is hacked, and she gets a creepy message that ominously says, "Think on your sins."
And on the way, the people with the knock list hack it, put some people up online, and then blow up MI6's building.
But I like this setup of somebody is coming back from M's past to get back at her. It's neat.
I think MI6 blew up in one of the Brosnan movies, and it had zero effect on me because neither that building nor its inhabitants had any real meaning to me. Like, they don't exist in any other films, so from like an international standpoint, that building blowing up means nothing. This time, while it wasn't insanely dramatic, I could feel something. The building has been a character in these movies, as we do frequently see people inhabit it instead of just kind of popping up in random offices and downed subs and stuff like that.
It is kind of funny if you think about it. There's a lot of similarities to what happened in The World Is Not Enough in this movie.
We cut to Bond on top of a woman, because we haven't seen that in a while.
Cut to James Bond getting some, and then going to some beach bar in Tahiti or somewhere.
Meanwhile, Bond is alive. Surprise!
The 3 scenes where we discover Bond is alive are superb.
And he is alive, but he has kind of let MI6 know he's dead, so he just drinks Heineken at Jason Bourne's old house out on the islands.
Drifting from island to island, doing what he does best, drinking and sleeping around when he realizes that the world still needs him.
I think Craig does an excellent job of portraying the pain this guy is in. Not just physical, but he's not doing well.
Bond can finally have his hormonal exploits, but is left restless. So he goes to confront death and pain while simultaneously satisfying his narcissism, but it holds no meaning. He is a shell of his former self until he hears that MI6 has been attacked, which actually gives him hope that he still has a place in this world.
And in typical James Bond fashion, he shoots and punches his way through his problems, which is one of the great things about Bond, is that for a guy who's supposed to use his wits all the time, he's terrible at outwitting people. Unless it's a gadget that's been handed to him specifically suited for this task he needs to do. If it comes to outsmarting anyone, he's like, bollocks. And he just turns around and starts dick punching people and shooting them in the throat. And, again, we've said it a million times, he's the worst spy in the world. The fact that other people know who he is, I've heard about you, Mr. Bond, you're the worst spy ever.
Bond ends up coming back in. He's been in hiding, living on a beach, drinking tequila shots with scorpions on the back of his hands for a while.
And basically staying out all night, doing dumb stuff, like taking shots while holding a scorpion on your hand.
He hangs out and has staring matches with scorpions, he drinks, people love him.
That bit with the scorpion is nuts.
Just a lot of day drinking and chilling.
But he's decided to come back in because of MI6 getting attacked, so that's good on him.
Until he sees the news about the MI6 explosion on CNN, and Wolf Blitzer tells James Bond, Queen and Country need you.
but he sees MI6's building get blown up on the telly, and then shows up in M's house like the next day.
So they cut back to M, and she's pissed. And the way they're shooting this movie so far, she's the protagonist of this story, and James Bond is just kind of a side character, which is kind of a cool way to do this. She goes home, though, and Bond is there.
That moment where Bond's standing in the shadows and just says, "Reporting for duty."
She says, "Where the hell have you been?" And he's like, enjoying death.
Or maybe he's sitting. I think he's sitting and drinking.
He's mad that she ordered the shot instead of trusting him, and she tells him to grow up, which is classic M. I love this character. I think she is great, and I love them together.
James also looks like shit. Even M is like, a shower might be in order. Oh, and all his stuff has been sold or put in storage because, he's dead.
So, MI6's new base, I like the verticality of this, where MI6 used to be on top of everything. They're in this massive building that overlooked a lot of the city, and now they're not even one step down, they are 2 steps down, now beneath the very city that they are trying to protect, beneath the people.
We cut to the new MI6, which is down in the Churchill bunkers, under London.
Welcome to the new MI6, an underground abandoned bunker/tube station, like in Die Another Day. They probably still have the Moneypenny sex VR thing.
Which is cool, and I like them briefing him while he's being tested to find out whether or not he's fit for service, which he's not. He's out of shape. He's messing things up.
Daniel Craig is awesome as James Bond. He's my favorite James Bond by like a good margin. And part of it's because I like the movies he's in more than I like the movies that some of those other guys are in. There's no disrespect like Dalton or Brosnan or some of them, but something about the Craig version of these films, like the Sam Mendes, Martin Campbell directed versions, really kind of strikes a chord with me. I really like it. This one in particular, I don't know if it's like I said, kind of him feeling his mortality a little bit, and at times almost looking like he's overwhelmed, like he might not be able to get this shit done.
So Bond had a near-death experience, and he also seems to kind of be having a midlife crisis in this one.
They give Bond a ton of physical and mental evaluations, and this is where Craig's acting comes across. He looks like a man who's been through hell and back, and just barely holding on. In fact, we find out that he has basically failed the exams later on, and M just wants him back in the field, someone she can mostly trust.
It almost seems like Bond aged 30 years since the last movie.
He's winded after he runs on a treadmill. He can't shoot. He walks out of his psych evaluation like Trump on a 2020 interview.
He's all like, "I'm getting too old for this shit," which is weird because it's only been 2 movies since he actually became an agent.
Apparently, as much fun as it is to day drink all the time and have sex with hot Greek women, that doesn't really count as secret agent training.
He failed all of his tests, and M lied to get him approved for service anyway.
You're the worst spy ever.
Bond digs the bullet fragments out of his shoulder and wants to get them analyzed.
Favorite gadget or weapon? I found it a fun tie back that they used the bullet that was embedded in Bond's arm to find out who was the shooter. It really reminded me of the earlier movie, The Man with the Golden Gun, in which they trace back the bullet to find out who was the owner of the gun. So, kind of fun. Also a sign that I've been watching way too many Bond movies. Thanks, guys.
It's made very clear that Bond has been at this for a while, so there's definitely been some time between Quantum and Skyfall. I like to think that some of his other missions, like from the books and the old movies, took place in between movies.
James Bond, I would like you to meet your new boss, Lord Voldemort.
Mallory and Bond in an end-to-end related conversation about how this is a young man's game, and we get it. The movie beats it into us. This movie's about time.
Does "don't cock it up" mean something else in England?
You gotta love how M tells Bond to take the exercises seriously, then Homeboy debriefs him the entire time.
I love the way Tanner gives Bond exposition while he's working out.
Bond cuts out the bullet he was shot with, some sort of special metal.
Wow, okay, so the round that Bond took in Istanbul was made out of depleted uranium, which is radioactive. They make tank shells out of it, and it was fired out of a Glock 18 with an extended 100-round magazine.
So the guy with a 10,000 round clip was using expensive ammo too?
So apparently this guy made a couple hundred depleted uranium rounds in 9mm, which doesn't exist and seems wildly excessive.
This evaluation scene with the psychiatrist is awesome.
I still love Bond's death stare to M from behind the reflective glass. That is such a cool scene.
Then there's this great back and forth scene with Moneypenny. who's been assigned to help Aunt Mallory, the minister.
We see some more banter between Bond and Moneypenny.
Oh, and M still has this terrible ceramic bulldog on her desk, which apparently survived the explosion.
Did anyone else cringe when Bond touched the laptop screen to point out Patrice? That is like one of the biggest pet peeves of mine. I can't stand when people do that.
But, okay, we got a name, and Bond's gonna go after him. But first, we have to meet the new Q.
We meet the new Q.
I do like New Q. New Q's pretty good.
And this is where, this is a theme with the new Bond movies, but they all have a theme, which is new for Bond in the Daniel Craig era, and it is something that really makes these movies hit home where a lot of the old ones didn't.
He meets Bond in an art gallery for some reason, even though MI6 has this huge underground bunker. Q meets him in an art gallery.
Bond goes to a museum to meet with Q, who is some hipster hacker kid.
In the art gallery, when who we soon will learn is the new Q sits next to Bond, I love the malice in Bond's eyes. Like, what the hell is this youngster doing sitting next to me, talking to me like he knows me?
The theme here is old versus new, young versus old. Is Bond washed up, or does youth and skill lose to age and treachery?
It's always about time. Seriously, it's about time.
He is literally looking at a picture of an old ship being dragged away because it's too old, and this is going to be the theme of this story.
And they have this quiet whispered conversation where Q gives him a gun with a handprint identification so nobody else can shoot the gun, and a radio transceiver so that he can call for backup if he needs it.
Bond's new Walter PPK is palm print encoded. It's a nice touch.
But Q gives Bond a gun and a radio.
Q gives Bond his gadgets, a gun and a radio.
Bond's two gadgets in this movie are a gun and a radio. He says, "Not exactly Christmas, is it?" Q responds, "Were you expecting an exploding pen?"
And there's a great quip here where there's something about Q says well, were you expecting an exploding pen? We don't really go in for that sort of thing anymore.
And they make a jab at the exploding pen.
They shied away from the gadgets and stuff, and I thankfully, and I know that some people that's kind of part of the Bond thing is the goofy, the watch that's a laser time travel machine, and the car that does your taxes and all this crazy shit. I guess I prefer the realism part of it a little bit. I mean, obviously it's not realistic.
Don't talk shit on the exploding pen. That was rad as hell. I'll fight you over this, James Bond.
What were you expecting? Exploding pens? We really don't do that much around here.
But I like that, keeping with the theme of old versus new, all he gets here is a gun and a radio, very old school. Even Sean Connery would have been disappointed with this gadget set out from the new Q.
I like this Q. He's good.
It's visually stunning, a lot of times. There's that one scene in, is it Tokyo?
Bond goes to Shanghai.
Then we go to Shanghai.
Shanghai, when he goes for the assassination, and it's in front of across the street from that building, and all the billboards are lit up and everything. It's just really impressive.
We cut to an amazing rooftop pool in Shanghai.
The shot of Bond swimming in the glowing pool against the neon city backdrop is so freaking cool.
And Bond is there.
I love all the aerial shots of the city and the music. This is great.
And then he gets the call that he's got to go tail this guy.
Shanghai this city has some amazing architecture. And what's crazy is this basically happened overnight. I think they first started building these skyscrapers, I want to say in the late 80s or early 90s. If you look at photos prior to that, this city looked nothing like it does today.
So Bond gets back on the trail of the guy from the intro and follows him to a skyscraper where the guy's gonna shoot somebody with a sniper rifle.
And hey, Bond's wearing a disguise, and it is complete with a silly hat.
I love seeing Bond in disguise.
So we've had a For Your Eyes Only reference, we've had a GoldenEye reference, and now we got a Roger Moore disguise.
This whole sequence where he's tracking the guy from the airport to this building, it's really good spy stuff, and I like it.
And mostly I want to talk about the scene because I just have to mention, did anybody else notice that this guy looks what if Jason Schwartzman was a soccer hooligan? Because that's what this guy looks like, just like a gruff Jason Schwartzman.
Patrice is there, he kills a security guard, and Bond is going in after him.
That moment where Bond's hanging underneath the elevator is brilliant.
Thank God Bond did all those pull-ups, because he has to hang onto an elevator going up 40 floors.
Jumping onto the elevator is really cool, that was a really cool stunt, but damn, Bond is not at full strength, and it's cool to kind of see him struggling a little bit to keep up and do the stuff that he used to be able to do really well.
I love how there's no dialogue throughout this whole sequence. just music and cool visuals. It's great cinematography.
These Shanghai shots are beautiful. The fight, the getting set up, everything, the tension here, all of the cinematography here is amazing.
Where he witnesses the assassin who shot him put up a non-stealth run of the building, killing security guards in the lobby, hallway, just destruction, before making his way to the top of a high-rise, cutting into glass, pulling out a sniper rifle, and setting up to kill some random in the building across the way.
Okay, so a man is shown sitting down in front of a painting. That painting is Woman with a Fan by Amedeo Modigliani, which was stolen 2 years prior to this film and has still not been recovered. So hold on to that point, because this is also a reference to Dr. No, where Dr. No featured a painting that was stolen several years prior to that film as well.
So anyway, Bond follows him up the top of the skyscraper, sneaks all the way there, watches him set up to take the shot to assassinate someone, and just doesn't stop him. Bond just lets him shoot somebody. Cool, Bond. Thanks.
The guy gets the shot off, but Bond's there, and there's a fight. And it is an amazing fight.
The fight scenes are phenomenal. You can see, like, they really look like they're hurting the shit out of each other. It doesn't so much look like a film fight where it's just dudes wailing on, taking shots that would put someone else completely out. There's a few of those because it's a movie. But when dudes get hit, like, it looks like they're really fighting. I mean, they did a really nice job.
The fight with the assassin on top of the skyscraper I think it's one of the coolest fight scenes ever.
And the scene at the top felt like Blade Runner with all the lights and the cool glass reflections.
Just the way it's shot, it's like something out of Kill Bill.
Everything about the assassination of Patrice is amazing. The lights, the colors, the reflective glass. I think I would normally have a complaint about how unclear a lot of what's happening is, but it's done just so right. It's so artistic that you have to love the inability to truly understand what's happening. It really puts you in the moment of the characters.
But I love that they're just fighting over this precipice in front of this gigantic neon sign. This whole movie is a moving work of art.
Brutal but beautiful, all in silhouette, except for when muzzle flashes go off. This is an incredible fight sequence. It is beautiful to look at. But getting this lighting set up and making the whole thing look like it was lit by the neon lights is like a huge dick measuring thing for this Shanghai battle. It is amazing, and this guy knows it, and he is just showing all of Hollywood what he's capable of. No other cinematographer could have pulled off this rooftop Shanghai fight.
The guy across the way is still shot, but a fistfight ensues with the gunman, and the assassin ends up falling off the building. Ouch.
Patrice falls for a long time, then Bond gets a glimpse of Berenice Marlowe, then vanishes.
Anyway, the payment for the kill was left in the gun case, a single casino chip for a place in Macau.